Hi, good morning. Grace and peace be yours from God our Father and from our Savior Jesus Christ. I'm Pastor Ralph Hill from Mount Horeb Lutheran Church, and Pastor Joanna and I enjoy and we look forward to being with you each morning as we gather around God's Word. Today is Tuesday, May 12th, and I want to begin with a prayer that's from our Matins devotions. So let us pray. We give thanks to you, Heavenly Father, through Jesus Christ, your dear Son, that you have protected us through the night from all harm and danger. And we ask that you would also protect us today from sin and all evil, so that our life and our actions may please you. Into your hands we commend ourselves, our bodies, our souls, and all that is ours. Let your holy angels be with us, so that the wicked foe may have no power over us. Amen. Today's reading is going to come to us from Proverbs, the 3rd chapter, verses 5 through 12. So let us hear these words together. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It will be a healing for your flesh and a refreshment for your body. Honor the Lord with your substance and with the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine. My child, do not despise the Lord's discipline, or be weary of his reproof. For the Lord reproves the one he loves, as a father the son in whom he delights. The word of the Lord. This passage reminded me a little bit about life's rhythm, and life's rhythm as a child of God, as somebody that lives with faith. I was reminded years ago of Benny Bedenbaugh, a professor who used to give us an image of breathing as an image for living our lives, and he would say, what is more important, breathing in or breathing out? And after you pondered it for a minute, he just would simply say, it depends on what you did last. And so it does make sense that if we breathe in, if we continue to do something in one direction and we don't stop, at some point we lose capacity to be able to take in anymore. And so the next thing we do is breathe out. And then that can also be a way of, at some point, you can't breathe out anymore, you have to stop, and then you breathe in. When there's a tool from 3D Ministries called the pendulum swing, and it talks about that being related to our life as a child of God, as a people of faith, that breathing in is like abiding in God's presence, like today, reading God's word, dwelling in it, and also worshiping God. That's what gives us strength, that's what gives us breath, and what fills us with God's goodness. But we get to a point where we can't do that all the time, and we need to go out and live that and demonstrate it. So we breathe out, and it's in our breathing out that we serve other people with love, that we witness to God's goodness in our lives, that we use our lives as a demonstration of faith. So I think about this for every day. Even in a pandemic, we get to a point where some things that we're doing so much of, we can get tired of it in full. And God always constantly reminds us to breathe in before we go back to breathing out. And I can remember times in my life when I breathed out a lot. I can remember my final year in college. For some reason, there was a mix-up because I had switched majors early on, and so I needed an extra course or so. And I had 6 courses my last year. And so it was the final week of exams that May, and I had 6 cumulative exams to take. By the end of my last exam, I want you to know that I was just exhausted. And so I probably slept for a day or two after that because of all the studying and the rhythm of study, test, study, test, study, test that just wore me out. Or I can remember when I was in summer camp in the early 80s at Luther Ridge, after 10 or so weeks of a wonderful and a nurturing experience of community, of being with campers, of doing the work, of worshiping together, of having these relationships, but also knowing that it was a 24/7 lifestyle. You were always there in community, and you were always on, so to speak. I can remember I would always come home and just sleep for a day or so because my body and my mind was just spent. It was exhausted. It was a wonderful exhaustion, but it was exhausted. I think of parents and especially mothers with newborns that have schedules, newborn babies that have schedules of feeding and other needs. And it doesn't take long before you get exhausted because you become sleep deprived, and you're just constantly worrying. Or there might be periods of work for you in your job or your vocation where from time to time it's reasonable, but there was once in a while where you have demands are high and your responsibilities are many and your schedules become stretched because that's your primary focus, and you can get out of rhythm. You can become exhausted. So what do you do when you've had enough, when you've had too much, when you're exhausted? And God says to rest, that we abide in God through word and prayer and worship, and that we trust God's teaching, which speaks to our health and the health of our whole life. I had an image one time that was helpful for me before I would go to bed, particularly after a tough day or week or month or season in my life. And it's the image of going to bed with a racing mind, so much so that you just can't sleep, and thinking that Jesus is standing right next to your bed and says, Ralph, give me all of your cares, your burdens, your concerns that you're thinking about, and let me hold on to them. And I will hold on to them through the night so that you can stop and rest. I'll be right here in the morning and I'll give them back to you. But know that tonight I will take them on my hands. That's been a helpful image for me. So today, as we read this passage and as we are reminded of a God who desires a healing and a refreshment for us in our lives, that we turn to God and make sure that we have this natural balance of abiding in God's presence as much as we need to go out and share that in our living. Let us pray. Oh God, may we seek you in our whole lives, not just with our spirits, but with our minds and our bodies as well, that you may tend to our exhaustion through the renewal of life in Jesus Christ. In your name we give you thanks and pray. Amen. Peace, and may you have a blessed day today as you go out and serve the Lord.